Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share with a friend.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine.
Welcome into the Raw Knuckles podcast, Dennis. Awesome. The NHL season has begun, and the Habs right here. Let's start with the Montreal Canadiens. You know, great first game, obviously, with the Maple Leafs. Big win for them. They look. I was so surprised at the way they played. And listen, they took advantage of some turnovers, and Allen stood in his head, played really well. And then the next two games, they were okay. What I liked, I saw a lot of effort. I didn't see guys dogging it, but with that young crowd in the blue line, they're going to have these games. But what do you think of their start so far?
Well, I expected about this, to be honest. I didn't expect to win over Toronto, obviously, but they've only given up 3 goals a game, which is good. What I really suspect and where the struggle is going to be is on offense. Ducks haven't scored a power play goal yet, and they don't have a power play quarterback. It's as simple as that. You look at the blue line. I mean, I guess Weidman's running the power play. He's the only defenseman on the power play, and that's not going to be good enough. And good luck tonight in Pittsburgh, because that team's scoring 7 goals a game. So not unexpected. But again, you have to embrace what the team is going to be this season, where it's going to be more losses than wins. They're going to have the occasional game where they play well. But I think structurally, defensively, they've been fine. I think you're going to see 3-1 and 3-0 games. I don't think enough about this offense. When you have like Kirby Dach and Sean Monahan is basically your top line time-wise, 5-on-5, it's going to be a struggle all season. So not surprised. And I'm really eager to see how they play tonight in Pittsburgh against a team that brought the band back together and is clicking on all cylinders right now.
All right, we'll stick with it up front. Caulfield, great first game. Had some shots the next 2 games, some opportunities. They gotta find him on the power play, no question about it. They gotta start to, if they don't start scoring there, they're gonna be struggling for sure. It's difficult enough to score goals in this league, and they're gonna if they're not gonna capitalize on the power play. They got to start to find him. But that being said, Drouin sat out the first 2 games, and he gets back in, and they take out Pitlick. Now I like Pitlick. I thought he played well. I like what he brings every night. But obviously, you're not going to keep a Drouin in the stands for too long until you start hearing the noise here in Montreal. So again. This kid, I don't know. They got him with it, Josh Anderson. I got it. They're trying to insulate him. They're buddies. Josh is going to take care of him. But it's like, I think people just, I don't know. They expect more from this kid. Do you think he lasts with this new regime, or do you think they're going to move on from Jonathan Drouin at some point? I know it's early in the season, but I get a feeling that this team may want to move on from this management team.
I think they would like to, but if he's going to play 4th line minutes and play 7 minutes a night, how do you raise his value? Gets raised by playing. And if you're going to bury him on the 4th line, or you're going to scratch him, I don't know how you do that. I think a team would have to be super desperate. He'd have to put up some significant numbers, guys, to say, okay, here's some value. Let's take we'll retain some money. We'll take a low-round pick for the guy. But right now, in the moment, he's got to play to derive any value. I don't know a team that would want him at this point in time. You figure it's only going to be a contending team. And he's not going to be a feature player. So where would he fit? He might fit on a 3rd line on a championship team, maybe a Colorado or maybe a Calgary. But I don't see it unless he gets in the lineup. And I don't think, you're going to play Evans with Hoffman and Drouin. Like, those guys aren't 4th-line guys. They aren't energy guys. You might get some offense from that line, but if you're going to feature these guys and you want to move them, they're going to have to play more significant time. And the problem is, who would you move down the lineup to get Drouin to get the minutes to make him valuable some other team? It's going to be a tough I think it's going to be tough to be able to move him. They have to retain probably half the salary. And even at that point, I'm not sure there's going to be a taker at this point unless he gets in the games and produces.
Well, he's a UFA next year, right? So you
Yeah.
see him down the road. If that happens, they don't re-sign him. Just say they don't re-sign him. They can't get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
They can't trade him. Can't get anything for him. Do you see some team probably taking a stab at him for short money?
Yeah, Arizona or Chicago.
Yeah, right.
Like teams at the bottom. Right.
Yeah.
Unless he has some sort of revelation here and he gets he gets into 50 games and has 11 goals or something like that at a 20 goal pace. I hope so for the guy. He's been through a lot, but he's got to get in the lineup. And if you're still looking to win games, maybe down the stretch, if they're really out of it, well, I expect they do, and you put him in the lineup to feature him because there's going to be scouts in the building in January and February, then maybe at that point. But I don't know if he's good enough to be on this top six. So it's a tough situation. They're probably going to have to ride it out, and then John's going to have to make a decision on all he wants to do to further his career. It's probably going to be with a lesser team.
How's the young guy been playing, that Slavkovsky? I saw him the first game, but overall, what do you think of him?
I think he's in the right spot, Tim. You put him on third line, so he's not a top six, doesn't have the pressure. And he's getting maybe, 8-9 minutes a night, 5-on-5. He looks like he belongs. He's going to make a lot of mistakes. He's going to be up the ice when the other team scores, and Marty's not going to like that. But again, here's a guy that, look at the benefit that Caulfield had and Suzuki had and playing with Marty St. Louis, who's been that type of player, right? So I think the fact that he's a player's coach, keep him there. Keep him on the third line all season. Don't put any more pressure on him. Let him learn the game. Let him get his butt kicked a couple of nights when it's a bad game for him and a bad game for the team. I would keep him with this team. Like, this is the perfect learning opportunity for a player like this where there's not a lot at stake. You're not going for the playoffs. Let him learn from the big boys. Let him learn from Marty St. Louis. So I like the way they positioned him, Tim. I don't expect a lot from a production standpoint. If you get it, that's great. He's not going to be Cole Caulfield this season. He's not going to score 30 goals. But if he gets double digits, it's going to certainly help his confidence going into next season. And that's what you need to do. You need to build this player's confidence to say, okay, I can play at the most highest level at the best league in the world. So I like what they're doing. Keep him on the third line, unless he has a big season, starts blowing up, and you want to take maybe Kirby Dach off the first line or Dadonov if you want to training him. But I do like where he's positioned in this lineup right now.
Yeah, I'm watching him, especially in Detroit. Like, he looked tentative in the first period. He was kind of, on the outside. He wasn't being assertive. And then I don't know what the coach said to him afterwards, but he looked like, a different player. I think he must have had a talk with him and said, listen, just go out there and grab the puck, try and make some plays, do something. He looked like he got a message. It seemed like he played a bit better, but there's going to be some growing pains there. And I can't wait to see this kid bloom, and it's going to take some time. Do you think he gets the 10 games here and then maybe goes to Laval? Or what's that look like?
I would keep him up. What's the point? I mean, what's he really going to learn in Laval? I get it. If you want him to not play against the big guys and the Roman Yossis and the Matthias Ekholms and the Victor Hedmans every night and really but this is the perfect opportunity because there's nothing at stake with respect to the playoffs. It's a perfect opportunity to get this kid and I'm aggressive. I'd be aggressive, GM. This guy's the first overall pick. I want him on the team. I want him learning now so he can help me next season. Right. So that's the issue. And with respect to him being tentative, Nuts, I see it a lot because there's a lot of youngsters in Los Angeles playing here. Like, they're deferential to the veterans. They're always they're not like grabbing it. They're not going for the gusto. I saw it with guys like Adrian Kempe. Not that it would take 6 years for Slavkovsky to get to the point where Kempe is, where he's a 30-goal scorer now. Rookies defer to the veterans. So that's why you see that tentative play. So I don't think it's a person-specific situation with Slavkovsky. I think it's the fact that he's a rookie and you have these quote-unquote star players around you're going to be deferential. So I think that's a situation. I would keep him here. If you send him to the AHL, I got no beef with what they do with this guy, but I want this guy seasoned for next season because I'm going to need him for next season.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, they got some promising young guys, no question, and it's going to take time. We get it. On the back end, playing, Yeah, Abajakai,
Yeah.
Harris, Caden Gooley. Caden Gooley, 22 minutes the other night. Like, unbelievable minutes for such a young kid. But he handled it. Like, he looked like he honestly, listen, it's that one game. He looked good in all three games. But what I'm saying, he looked like a seasoned veteran. So
He
early.
wasn't
It's like it's
overmatched.
crazy.
Well, it helps when you have the security blanket of David Savard, where he's
Yeah.
probably thinking, okay, if I screw up here, David's has my back and he'll correct my error. So that's a nice security blanket to have because David Savard is a solid pro who's a defense guy first, and it gives the opportunity for this kid to learn. And you got to learn. Yes, is that too many minutes for that player? Yeah, sure. But again,
Yeah.
wanted to stay. Who are you going to put up there? Look at the left side. Who are you going to put up there? Josh Harris over Jack Hyde. So, yeah, rightfully so. He's probably the most talented one. He is the most talented one. So you put him up there, let him learn. And hopefully this reaps benefits into next season or the season after, where you have these kids who got this experience and went through a tough season, which I expect it will be. And they learn from this. It's a learning opportunity. Okay, it can't be as bad. We bottomed out last season. There'll be better players around them as well. So I like the way that Marty's deployed these young players so far. Now, is it going to change 10 games in if they're 1-9? Probably. But at that point, you worry about it then. But to start, I have no problem the way this lineup's being deployed, and especially the youngsters, even though there are a lot of youngsters. You have to ask me which youngster I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But with Sokowski and Gooley, I have a problem with either one the way he's using them.
And Edmondson and Matheson both hurt, both out. Would get those two guys back in there, it changes things, and it looks a little better on the back end, which they're gonna need. We just seen Jake Allen take a leave of absence for parental reasons. I don't know what that means, but he's out with Primo coming up, and so they're gonna have to rely on Montembeault. Now, he didn't play too bad, but the back end there without Jake Allen in that, I worry about Primo up here.
Yeah, you got to play Montembeault tonight against Pittsburgh. That wouldn't be. Yeah. You wouldn't throw the guy to the Sharks like that. That wouldn't be fair, right? Oh, either way, we're going to call you up and you're going to face Sid and Gino, and everybody's healthy on Pittsburgh.
Maybe Sid still got it. Sid still got it, obviously.
Yeah, last time I checked him, he does, right? So I'd rather play Primo against Pittsburgh halfway through the season when 4 of their forwards are out. So, but you're right about the banged up nature of the defense, Knox. I think it'll be certainly more stable when Matheson comes back as well as the other guys. So that's look, you're just biding your time here. Not having Allen is going to hurt. And they're up against it tonight because, again, this is a team that's healthy, clicking on all cylinders. But again, what kind of lessons are these kids going to learn playing Sid and Gino and a little star power? I mean, some of these guys are going to walk on the ice and like, wow, 87, 71, Chris Letang grew up idolizing these guys. So it's going to be a nice challenge for them. But you got to play the games. And look, if I told you guys 4-3 Montreal over Toronto opening night, you never know. But again, this looks like, if you look at the betting odds, it's a pretty big overmatch right now tonight in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. We're going to see nights like that, Toronto game, where they're going to come out and you're going to go, wow, where's this been? Yeah. But that's the most difficult thing, getting these young kids to be that consistent player. It takes time, and hopefully we see more of those games. How about the other night, Carey Price coming out, the ovation he got, it was incredible. Now, there was an article in The Athletic about him, his possible knee surgery. He said he still wants to play. He has a passion to play, but it's pretty complicated as far as the knee. Do you think we ever see him again?
No. What's the point? I don't see it. This team is not going to be in a position. If this was the Tampa Bay Lightning and he was playing for Tampa Bay and he hadn't won a cup yet, then yeah, I get it. This team is far away from being a contender. I know he loves to play, he has a passion for play. That's great. He has to worry about his family and his physical ability to walk around 10, 20 years from now. I think that's what he has to concentrate on. And the ovation, that's why I love Montreal, because that was an amazing ovation from the fans. They understand the connection between this team, that player, and the fan base. Right? He's been their leader, their best guy on the team for a long time. It's unfortunate what's going on, but physically, he tried last. If you couldn't get on the ice last season, Nux, and you're going to have another, I don't get it. Like, Carey's set. He's set for life. If you want to do it, that's a family conversation that he has to have with his wife and his kids about what he wants to do with his career. If he wants to continue to play and doctors can clear him, I guess it's okay. I'm not sure it's the best thing for him right now, to be honest with you. I think he should just, ride off into the sunset. He'll still get paid on the contract, which is nice for him. But I would be very careful on Carey Price about my physical ability. Not now, not playing the game, but in the future and with his family.
Yeah, and if he wants to play, though, and he does make that decision, I mean, does he play a game for the Montreal Canadiens again, or what do they do with his what do they do with him?
I would retain salary if he was totally healthy and trade him to a contending team. Because at $5 million a year, a healthy Carey Price is very attractive, get you assets. Right? Yeah. They don't need him now. And I think by the time they're ready to win, he's going to be he may not be the same Carey Price. Maybe right now he is. I mean, Tim, he may not be the same Carey Price when he comes back from another surgery. I don't know. That's the other challenge, the other issue. Yeah, you're healthy, but your body breaks down, and especially for a goaltender. I'm not sure. So if he can prove that he can play and play healthy and play well, if I'm used, I'm burning up the phone. Because guess what? The great thing about that is if he is able to be healthy, you see it every offseason. There's at least 6 teams that don't think they're good enough in goal. And there's such a carousel now in goaltending. And look at Colorado. I'm not saying he would go to Colorado, but look at Colorado. They're like, oh, the guy who won the Cup, Darcy Kemper? Okay, well, go have fun in Washington. We're not going to pay you. And we're going to get Georgiev. Right, and Edmonton is Jack Campbell the answer? I don't know. So there's 2 or 3 goals. Look, Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, Connor Hellebuyck, Saros, yeah. But if he can prove to me that he can come back and play well, I'm trading the guy. Now he's got a no movement clause, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe he only wants to play in Montreal. But I suspect the one thing of his legacy he doesn't have is a ring. And if he can go to a contending team and possibly win there. I think he would entertain that. That's what I would do. I'm not sure how he feels about his legacy. The only last thing he needs to do from a hockey standpoint is win a championship, which he hasn't done in Montreal.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what he does, as far as the surgery, getting that done, how long it's going to take to bounce back. I kind of think if he gets it and he starts feeling better, he's going to get that itch again. We'll see. But who knows? Yep. All right, Dennis. So the Habs, obviously Pittsburgh tonight. We'll see how that goes. The rest of the NHL, the start of the season, there's some pretty good games, obviously. But how about that Battle of Alberta? God, they look terrible. Edmonton in that first period. Yeah. God, Jack Campbell. We just talked about him the other day. Is he really that guy, the starter? He gets yanked, and then they battle back, which was good. But what do you think of the Battle of Alberta at the start of the season?
It's going to be really hard to contain Edmonton for 60 minutes, right? Because they started that way against Vancouver too, right? They were 3-0. We mentioned it last week, and they went up and rallied. So great battle. When you see Naz Kadri out there, now you know why they went and got him. It wasn't a luxury. Even with the centers that they had, it wasn't a luxury to get Naz Kadri. He's going to make a difference on this team. He could put them over against Edmonton in the playoffs, because I suspect that when we get to the Pacific Division Final, it's going to be Edmonton and Calgary to go out to play in the Final Four. It makes them a tougher team to play against. And look, they were tough to play against anyway. But the toughness that Tkachuk brings is different than the toughness that Naz Kadri brings. Plus, now you can move Backlund down to the 3 seed. Naz, remember, Naz an 80-point player last year. Now, maybe some of it is a halo effect of playing in Colorado, so maybe he's not going to be an 80-point player in Calgary. But this team appears with Mackenzie Weegar, with Uberta, it appears to be a better team for the playoffs. So I love and it's going to be, those games are going to be wars. And I don't think what will happen if they do play each other in the playoffs, guys, that's going to be a 5-game series either way. I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out 6 or 7 game war, because it really wasn't much of a war. Calgary won that first game. And Edmonton handled them pretty easily. But again, that's the reason that they went out and got Naz Kadri to play Edmonton in the playoffs. That's basically what they did. The first game, he didn't disappoint. Really like that player. He's tough. He's going to bring that edge that they didn't have. Not saying that they were a soft team, but he makes them much more dangerous, I think, once to the postseason. And that's the goal right now for Calgary, to go deep in the postseason.
Yeah, Kadri, I got to tell you, I was, I guess, a bit surprised, but I was happy for him, because the crap he took in Toronto. Listen, he made some bonehead plays. He did some stupid things, and he paid for it. The credit I want to give the kid is the fact that he's matured. He's learned from it, and he's a different guy now. Was fine. He still plays with the edges, but all the nonsense, the crazy stuff. You've seen it, right? I mean, you can't
bad decision making.
Can't say he hasn't.
No.
know?
But see, the one thing about Nas didn't tune out that stuff when people criticized him, because you remember, on ice to David Amber when they won the championship last year, he said, to all the people thinking I was a distraction, you can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
So he heard all the criticism, and he corrected his game. That was one of the best. I opened our opening show for Hot Stove on SiriusXM. I played that clip because he knew the criticism. He knew he made mistakes and he corrected it. And it's the dumb decisions that hurt the team. And when you make those decisions, Tim knows as a former player, that's selfish. Like when you throw a guy into the boards and you know that if you do that, you're going to be suspended for 10 days. That's selfish. That's not a team play. I don't care how hard you can play hard. You can't play stupid. And it was selfish what he did in those times he got suspended. And he toed the line. Maybe it was a better room. Maybe playing with Landeskog and Makar and the great players that they have on that team. He knew that I can't really do that and be selfish. We're on the cusp of winning a championship here. So I like this player. I think those days are over. He's won his championship. He's calmed down. He's gotten paid. I think you'll see a different player. So I think the risk of pulling those stunts again, I minimize them at this point in time because I think you're right. He has matured. He's won a championship, and now he has a long-term contract.
Yeah, no, great points. I like him. I think early on, like you just said, Nux, too, about maturing, like maybe he looked at like a teammate or a guy that you couldn't trust, right? Like you said, it's selfish. He'd take dumb suspensions, things like that. Right? Yeah. I might have. I don't know if I might have got suspended. No, I don't think I ever got suspended. I might have yelled at the ref or something and got a 10-minute. But anyways, no, but not today. Like I would take him. I think anybody would take him, right? Like he would. Yeah. He's got so much value. I love the guy. I'm always rooting for him. So yeah, no, these are great points for sure.
How about Toronto now? God, this Matt Murray. What is going on with Matt Murray? Like, now I know a lot of people say, "Oh, we saw this coming," but it's like crazy that he is hurt right now.
Well, they took a risk, and now it's an adductor injury, which is going to happen. The problem with the injury isn't like how long he's going to be out now. It's that has the risk of being a nagging injury all season, and that's what you don't want. Right, and that's the problem. That was the challenge, and that was the risk with signing a player, a goaltender like that's injured a lot. Like that are these nagging injuries is going to hound him all season, like a Freddie Anderson. Same thing with Freddie Anderson. I think that they could have gone to the Cup if Freddie was healthy. Like they had to play that Kochetkov kid for third string goaltender against the Rangers in Game 7. It wasn't going to work, and that's a risk you have. And they assessed that Murray and Samsonov will go, and not for nothing. I think Samsonov was going to be the guy anyway. Like, why did Tom get to game 40?
Outplay him?
Yeah, I think he was going to outplay him because he's going to be healthier. And I think he's a better goaltender. And Matt was a good goaltender 3-4 seasons ago. He hasn't played enough games to say, okay, this is the same guy that won the championship in Pittsburgh. I don't think it is. And so I think it would have happened normally. But again, Samsonov can't play 62 games either. You need Matt Murray for 40 games. If Samsonov is really going to be the guy, the sweet spot for goalies now is 45, 55 games. Because I'll mention the team that we just talked about, Calgary. They wore down. They lost because Markstrom wore down. And for 2 consecutive seasons in the playoffs, he wore down because he played too much. Dow rode him too hard in 2 consecutive seasons. And that's why Dan Vladar is important in Calgary. I think the same thing here. I think Samsonov is going to be the guy. But you need Murray to get some games in. It's 35 games minimum, and I'm not sure that's going to happen at this point because I think that injury could be nagging. And then what do? You sign Michael Hutchinson or David Ayers maybe? You bring him out of the
the Hamburglar.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you're going to have – it's going to be a concern all season. I think the health of this team on the back end and in the net is going to be questioned until they can prove they can stay healthy and be effective all season.
How about Bruce Boudreau going for his 600th NHL win? Pretty awesome. It's going to be against the Washington Capitals. Listen, here's a guy. I played against him my first year. I remember coming in, and he was in the American Hockey League, and a great center iceman. He played for Moncton and the Leafs farm team. Very good player. Never got that respect at the NHL level. Never really got the good shot with Toronto. And then he goes to minor leagues to coach. He was in the East Coast Hockey League forever. Then George got him out of the East Coast and got him up to the American League. And then, God, he's done an unbelievable job. What do you think of Bruce Boudreau as a coach?
I think he's a great guy. When he was in Anaheim, I covered him. He's easy to talk to, players coach, great regular season coach. And probably the last thing you want to be as a coach is a great regular season coach. That's you don't want to hear that. Like, you don't want to hear that you're great in the regular season, because that means you're not great in the playoffs. Look, he's going to have to figure out a way for this team to play better defensively. I mentioned last week that Tyler Mowers is out 2 to 4 weeks. They don't look good defensively. They lost their first two games. Didn't love the way they played. They gave up that big lead against Edmonton. They've been on the road for their third consecutive game. They were a lot better team with Bruce than they were with Travis Green last season. But they got to start winning now. And they're on the road. They're on the East Coast still. Maybe they get it because Washington doesn't look like – Washington, I think the one team in the East, if you look at all 8 teams from the playoffs last year, I think that's the team that you point at. That's older, that's injury, right? That has injuries. They don't have Backstrom. They don't have Tom Wilson, which are big-time players for them. I think this is a good opportunity for Vancouver to win tonight. Didn't like that Vancouver won at the Philly and didn't beat Flyers, although I'll give the Flyers credit. They're playing hard again under Torts. But this is a game that Vancouver needs to win. You wouldn't want to come out of the box. In the Pacific Division, that should be better, 0-3. And when Bruce does get that plateau, he should celebrate it, because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no question. Not an easy thing to do. Especially today. With the iPads that I love so much. How about Sonny Milano? He signed a 1-year, $750,000 contract with the Caps. Now, this kid's you see a lot of this now, right? 26-year-old kid, right? He had 20 assists, 14 goals, 20 assists last year for Anaheim. Not too bad. Like, what's the deal with Sonny Milano? He goes from Columbus. What's going on with this kid?
Some guys bounce around. Some guys bounce around, and they're going from system to system. They can't acclimate to the system. He's a one-way player now. He's not a defensive player. He's not a 200-foot player. And the problem with he had was that he signed a PTO in Calgary, I think. He was never making Calgary. But I guess it was to showcase him to other teams. And obviously this one team stepped up and signed him. He may give him some offense. He may give him some goals. Maybe he's a trade chip at the trade deadline. But that happens a lot, where you have guys who can score goals in this league, but they can't seem to stick anywhere. So good for him to keep pushing, keep trying to get it in contract. But again, he's going to be a bottom 6 player. So I think the hope is he comes into the lineup, gives the bottom 6 some offensive touch, which is always a challenge in this league, right? Your depth scoring. Yeah. He can score goals. He's proven he can be an offensive player. Anaheim, it wasn't a great season in Anaheim, and those games weren't of any importance. So you kind of minimize those numbers. But he can be productive. Again, it depends how much he plays and who he plays with on that roster to see if he can really be effective. I would think the starting is going to be an extra forward. He's not going to go right into the lineup. He's got to integrate himself to the coaching staff, to the system, learn the terminologies. And once he does, maybe by game 15 or so, you might see him in the lineup to give that lineup a little bit more punch.
Cool. What about the NHL for you? The beginning of the season here. Any surprises? Anything stick out for you?
That Chicago won a game. I was
there
really
you go,
surprised
Tim.
on that.
Yeah, Philly's going to the playoffs. We know that now. They're 2.
Philly's going to playoffs, Tim. Undefeated, 82-0. I think that the surprise of Chicago winning, the other side of that is it's going to be a very long season in San Jose. All right. Good luck to Mike Greer and David Quinn. I know David Quinn wanted to get back in the game, and he did get back in the game, but sometimes careful what you wish for. There's a major rebuild. They have some good players. Love Timo Meier. Hertl signed and wanted to stay there. Erik Karlsson's a shadow of himself. He's not the same player, and that's the one thing. I know they had Doug Wilson appreciation night, but you can't appreciate Doug Wilson for signing him to that contract. That's that's a really an albatross on around the neck of the San Jose Sharks. He's just not the same player anymore. He doesn't have the mobility. He's trying. He's out there playing. He's playing 23, 24 minutes a night, but this is a long rebuild process. That's a very difficult team to watch. And even with the players that I mentioned, they're really good offensively. They've scored 6 goals in 4 games. It's going to be a very long season in San Jose. And then the question is who asks out. The other surprise, and like Tim mentioned, Philadelphia. Look, I told you last week, they're going to play hard. They're going to block shots. They're going to be committed. And if they're not committed, the players aren't committed, they're going to sit out. They're going to sit on the bench. Look at Cam York. Cam York was supposed to be a defenseman in the future. He's now down in Lehigh Valley in the AHL because he wasn't good enough to play. John doesn't care. John holds all the cards right now. Right? He can do that because that team sucks so bad. You can't say that, I'm bigger than the coach and I have a bigger contract. Nah, it don't work like that. He brought him in for structure and for culture. Because I told you last week, I watched the team play it was a crime. It was a crime to have 6,000 people in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center for that franchise that has such a legacy and has such a connection to the city. And the other challenge is that the other 2 teams in that city right now, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't really help. But again, I'm not surprised look, am I surprised at 2-0? Yeah, I am. I'm not surprised at the way they're playing because he got their attention. You have to buy in. They're going to, like I said, the box shots are going to be more structured defensively. And it really helps one player in particular, Carter Hart. Or as you would say, Nux, Carter Hart. Right? Carter Hart. He needed help, right? Because he was great the first year. The team had no structure, no defense in front of him, a really crappy team. If you're going to get that kid back to the level where he needs to be, it's with John Tortorella's coach. They may not score a lot of goals. They're not going to have 50-goal scores. They're not going to make the playoffs, despite what we're saying right now. But again, it's really going to help Carter Hart. This is a pivotal season for Carter Hart because if John can at least put structure in there and they don't get wiped out where they're losing 3-0 10 minutes into a game, that's certainly going to help him because he's certainly the goalie of the future.
Good stuff.
How's your take on Detroit? Detroit being 2-0. I know this is early on. I mean, we're 2 games, you know what I mean? But I think personally they looked pretty good. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, well, they got that one line that's 6'3", 6'6", and 6'8", right? The Legion of Doom, right? It's a new Legion of Doom, right? Rasmus Sundqvist and that Soderblom kid who scored in front of his parents the other night in Detroit.
Yeah.
Look, they added a lot of parts, Tim. Like, when you sign 7 free agents, it's tough to say you're going to be a contending team, right? Mm-hmm. And now Tyler Bertuzzi's out 4 to 6 weeks. Verana's missing tonight. They're going to play LA for some personal reasons. They're going to score goals. They're going to be entertaining, but they have to sign Bertuzzi. They have to sign Dylan Larkin. I think the biggest challenge for this team is going to be on the blue line and in the net. Like, do they have enough to play good defense? And look, in the first 2 games, they gave up 2 goals. So that's a good sign. So maybe they're ahead of the schedule. I don't see them as a playoff team because I don't see the team other than Washington. Like, do I think they're going to rise up and pass Washington? Washington would have to have a really bad season, Tim, for that to happen. But if you trust Stevie, it comes down to trust. Do you trust Stevie Yzerman to repeat what he did in Tampa? If you do, then you think they're on the right track. And I do think they have parts here. Just signing all these free agents, having acclimated to get all that chemistry with a new coach in Lalonde, that's a big ask to say, okay, they're going to jump from what they had last season to a playoff. I don't see that happening. But again, I think they're on the right track. And anytime you can get off to a good start with a young team with a lot of new faces, that's a good thing for Detroit. I'm interested to see the game tonight because LA coming off a crazy win on Saturday night in Minnesota, 7-6. I'm not used to seeing that in LA. I'm used to 2-2 games. So maybe the Kings are changing their identity, but good start for Detroit. But I need to see more from that team to say, okay, this is a team that's going to be playing games of consequence. Let's say in February and March.
All right, I'm going to be. I'm going to throw something out here. Connor Bedard, right? Mm-hmm. Let's not. We're figuring Arizona, but it'd be a shame if this kid ends up in Arizona, in the desert. This generational talent. I mean, can't we work something out here to get him to a marquee team?
To Montreal.
Yeah.
No, keep losing games. I know it's going to be a race to the bottom. San Jose saying, okay, we might need him. So that team looks, it's going to be a draft lottery. Who knows? It's going to be a shame. Well, it would be a shame if they're going to continue to play in a 5,000 seat arena as Arizona State. I'm actually going out there for opening night to see what it's all about. But if they do build a 15,000 seat arena in Tempe, and it's a great city, and have your people from Scottsdale and Tempe going in there instead of playing in Glendale, it may not be such a bad thing. And remember, Nux, Connor Bedard in 2 seasons could be playing with Austin Matthews because Austin's from Arizona.
Yeah,
so
right.
Maybe
That's
it's
true.
not
they
such
could
a
change
bad
the
deal.
whole franchise around, right? The total.
He could go home. I don't think Austin's going home.
They'll sell out that 5,000 seats. That's for sure.
They will. Well, you know what? I've heard that they're making more money, more revenue being in this 5,000 seat because they scale up the tickets big time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not cheap seats. They're going to make more money ticket revenue wise than they would in Glendale because they would draw 5,000 or 6,000 people. It'd be cheaper seats. So I'm really interested to see the atmosphere. That's why I want to go out and interested. And it's funny. Gary Bettman was in Los Angeles opening night here in LA, and I asked Gary if he was going to go out to Arizona like we are for opening night. He goes, no. He goes, it's a temporary home. I'll get there at some point in the season, but I don't have any plans to go. Imagine that. Like you're going into a new – I get it's a temporary home, but you're going into a new building, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm good. Peace out. I'll go to somewhere else. So it's really interesting that he said he wasn't going to go there for opening night. But you look, Arizona's just like that's how you do a rebuild. Like there's no halfway rebuilds. Here's what we're doing. We're shipping everybody out. We're going to get all these draft picks. We're going to try to get it. They need to trade Jacob Chikrin too. They'll get some more. They'll get 2 or 3 more assets for him. So look, when you have a franchise like that, there's less pressure because you don't have 18,000 people in the building every night saying, "Oh, this team sucks and we don't want to come," and the building's way empty. The optics for a team that's going to be really bad isn't going to be that bad because you don't have to sell 5,000, 6,000 seats. So it's not going to be that bad. So, and I always said, look, it's a means towards an end. I get it. A lot of people criticize it. I don't. Because if you were really going to keep – here's the thing with the NHL. They have dug their heels so deep into Arizona in that market. Like, remember, they own the team out there. They've gone through so much. They're not leaving unless Tillman Fertitta, who owns the Houston Rockets, wants another tenant in this building in Houston and buys that team and moves them. They're not going anywhere. Sorry, people in Quebec City. They're not going there, right? They're so committed because it's a big market. It's the 7th largest media market in the U.S. They want it. They're going to stay there. And they're going to get, unless something happens with the building, which I don't think is going to happen with the new building, they get the new building in Tempe and Scottsdale as an opportunity to be a really good franchise. But we'll see.
Price, they have enough teams in the NHL now. Do you think they do expand again at some point? No.
Well, here's the thing. When they do, it depends on the expansion fee, and then the owners put $20-25 million check in their pocket. So maybe they do, but I don't see the market. Houston obviously would be one, but are they holding other markets off for relocation? But I don't really see a team that's going to relocate, right? I mean, the teams that you thought might relocate, like a Carolina back in the day, they're not relocating. Yeah. So I think we're good right now, to be honest with you, at this amount of teams. I don't see the big market they could move into. Like, you're not going to go to New Orleans. I mean, what cities are left, Nux? You're not going to go to another Canadian city because, it's not going to happen. So I would be shocked. Maybe Portland, and then you have a natural rivalry with Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver. Yeah. But I just don't see it. I think we're at a good spot right now. We have enough teams, and I think we have enough big markets covered. And the team, and not for nothing, in 2 or 3 years when the salary cap goes back up, I mean, this league that was a gate-driven league, guys, survived the pandemic because I was worried, right? Because it's not like NFL where you get all this TV money. It wasn't like that. They survived. They're healthy. In 2 seasons, the salary cap's going to go up probably $10 million to about $92 million. It's great. Like, that's the whole thing, Nuts. I know people want to call me traditionalist. Don't change shit. Stop changing stuff. Don't change the playoffs. Don't expand. Like, just let it ride for a couple of years. They don't have to worry about a TV contract now. Like, you don't have to change stuff structurally. So unless there's some demand, unless some big-time owners, another billionaire wants to own a team, like, he doesn't have to get an expansion team. There's probably 4 or 5 teams that he could buy right now that teams would be that might be interested in selling. So I don't see expansion. I don't want to expand the playoffs, right? I just don't want to do it because I think the game itself, Nux and Tim, are in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, they are. There's no question. The original 32 is in great shape. No question about it. And Dennis, awesome stuff. And we'll do this again next week.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for the time. Appreciate being on the Awesome Podcast.